5, 4, command engine start, 2, 1. And S4 has cleared the tower.
Shepard rocket here from West Texas. You're watching live.
5,000 feet and climbing.
Coming up in a couple seconds here, we'll hit max Q. This is the point where the aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle are at its max.
15,000 feet.
There we've hit max Q. Watch how it's cutting that speed.
10,000 feet. That engine should be relighting soon. 5,000 feet. There's that engine relight. 3,000 feet. Landing gear deployed. 5 miles per hour. Another picture-perfect landing for the New Shepard rocket booster.
Falcon 9 secured. Flight pressures.
2 minutes 15 seconds. D-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket with science for today and for deep space exploration tomorrow. Falcon 9 has cleared the towers.
I still love you, has AOS.
Vehicle now going through the sound barrier. Vehicle's now transonic. Through max Q.
So you're seeing live footage of Course I Still Love You, our drone ship, waiting for the, here's the engine. Slow it down, lights are deployed.
The world commercial launch market then became essentially divided between the Russians and the French. The Russians probably having about 3/4 of the business, and the French having about 1/4. And that continued on for quite a while until a few years ago when SpaceX started launching the Falcon 9. And since then, we've steadily increased the share of US-1 missions. And I think we're now about 1/4 of all commercial satellite missions are won by a U.S. company, or really won by SpaceX. And I think we've got a decent shot if we keep at it of achieving a majority of the commercial launch market, of winning over a majority of the commercial launch market. That's I don't want to count chickens before they've hatched, but it's looking increasingly positive that we'll probably we'll probably restore the United States to #1 on commercial launches in the world. Well, actually, in the rocket industry, people have thought about reusability for a very long time, it just happens that Earth's gravity is quite strong, and it's just barely possible to get reasonable payload to orbit with an expendable rocket. So then if you add reusability, then that tends to give it negative payload to orbit, so you can't...
So how do you do it?
So you've got to do two things. You've got to really advance the core rocket technology itself, as far as the engines, the airframe, the avionics, the recovery systems, like the landing legs, and the boost back capability. You've got to make the rocket such that if it was in a pure expendable mode, it would get approximately 4 or slightly more than 4% of its payload mass to orbit. And to put this in perspective, normally a rocket gets about 2% of its payload mass to orbit. So it's a very small number. But if you can push that to 2-ish% to more like 4% on an expendable basis, and then be really efficient in the way that the reuse takes place, such that the reuse penalty is only maybe half of that, so you still have a net payload to orbit of 2%. That's essentially what's needed to achieve reusability. SpaceX has been at it now for 13 years, and we haven't yet achieved it. So, so I think what we've done thus far is evolutionary, not revolutionary. But I think we're within sort of shooting distance of this. I think within the next year we'll be able to land the rocket intact. We'll be able to land the rocket, just not intact. There's some exciting videos on YouTube if you want to watch them.
Well, Blue Origin is a company that's developing a vertical takeoff, vertical landing space vehicle. So it takes off on its tail like a normal rocket and then comes back and lands on its tail like a Buck Rogers rocket. It's designed to be reusable. We've built our first development vehicle. We built our second development vehicle. We're right now working on our third development vehicle. Great team of engineers located in Seattle. Another team of people test and operations in West Texas, where we do our flights. And it's proceeding along very nicely. I'm hopeful that this third development vehicle will be our last, but we can't know for sure. And then we will build our operational vehicle and start taking people to suborbital mission. We'll sell tickets. The long-term goal of Blue Origin is to not only do suborbital, but also orbital, and to democratize space travel so that anybody who wants to go into space can afford to do so.
Are there particular challenges with vertical takeoff and landing that other approaches don't have?
Yeah, every approach has its pluses and minuses. The thing that I like about, well, first of all, you need reusability. So when you go look at any approach that doesn't have reusability, is never going to be low cost. There are only two problems with space travel today. It's too expensive and it's too dangerous. Other than that, it's fine. So we hope to solve those two problems. And if you want to solve those problems and have a spacefaring species, you need to practice. And you can't practice with expendable vehicles. It's like, it's flying you get on a 747 with a bunch of other passengers, fly to Hawaii, and then throw the whole plane away. It's just a bad cost structure. And so we need reusability. So you have to get the vehicle back. And one of the ways to get it back is to put wings on it, and then you can land it on a runway. Another way to get the vehicle back is to land it vertically under rocket power. And both techniques have advantages and disadvantages. One of the things I like about vertical landing is if you get it to work, it's very scalable. It scales to very, very large size, whereas wings sort of, they top out a bit.
My advice would be the same for any kind of entrepreneur, and that is make sure that you are focused on something you're passionate about. So if you look at the early internet companies, they were started and focused on doing something that they thought was very interesting long before the internet was fashionable in any way. We are currently an underdog once again. We've been in business for 6 years, and there was exactly 1 year where we were not the underdog, and that was 1999. I like the underdog years because it makes, I liked it when all the people we hired, their parents told them they were crazy. Like that was kind of the good era. Fortunately, it's back. In 1999, all the parents were like, giving their brothers and sisters high fives. My son is working at Amazon.com. So that's a very, you can't follow the fashion when you're trying to do a startup company, or I think really anything in life. But you have to, as an entrepreneur, if you're gonna build a company, pick something you think is interesting that has the intersection of genuinely creating real customer value, and then just stay right there and let the wave catch you.
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Where did you get an idea for Amazon.com?
Well, 3 years ago, I was in New York City working for a quantitative hedge fund when I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth. And I picked books as the first best product to sell online, which are making a list of like 20 different products that you might be able to sell. And books were great as the first best because books are incredibly unusual in one respect, and that is that there are more items in the book category than there are items in any other category by far. Music is number 2. There are about 200,000 active music CDs at any given time. But in the book space, there are more than 3 million different books worldwide active and in print at any given time across all languages. More than 1.5 million in English alone. So when you have that many items, you can literally build a store online that couldn't exist any other way. And that's important right now because the web is still an infant technology.
It's like computers. I didn't expect to create numbers or anything like that. So it's really, and I think it is better to approach this from the standpoint of saying, rather than like you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to make money, it's like what is some useful thing that you could do that you wish existed in the world, and then try to get other people to work with you to create that thing and keep making it better and better. And if you do create something useful, then money will be the result. But that's just the way that the properly working economy kind of rewards the creation of useful goods and services. And if you're creating something that you love and you think other people will love, it's much easier to sort of sacrifice the time and spend the effort. And if it doesn't work out, you don't regret it. It's a good way to go.
That third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated.
8 weeks later, Musk bet the company on another flight.
We have liftoff.
And this time around, everything worked.
Perfect.
If that fourth launch hadn't worked, that would have been it. We would have not had the resources to mount a fifth.
Were you a little naive when you thought I can easily build an electric car and a rocket?
I didn't think it would be easy. Like I said, I thought they would probably fail. But like creating a company is almost like having a child. So it's sort of like, how do you say your child should not have food?
So once you have the company, you have to feed it and nurse it and take care of it. of it, even if it ruins you?
Yeah.
But suppose there was some tough times in 2008, end of 2008. How did you get through that period of crisis?
Yeah. Can we just break for a second?
Sure, of course. Yeah.